G'day ladies and gents, and welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome to the Battle of Britain event, the hardest day. Today I'm flying out as Germany in the Bf-109E4 with the White 5 skin, and I have to say this is one of the most visually striking matches that I think I've played in War Thunder. I thought my sim battle that I did the other day was really hitting the money, but this one I think takes the cake. I really do enjoy the new sunset effects. I think they look absolutely gorgeous, but they do make it hard to make a video. So we're just preparing for our first engagement. I've started by climbing to the north side of the map, that is right from the spawn point, from the German spawn point, to take altitude, and I've managed to maintain and gain altitude on most of the British aircraft in the match. In the hardest day event, Germany has fewer aircraft than the British side. We also do not have access to a runway, but that is to be expected. These battles are built around historical battles with a limited access to aircraft. And this particular one is based around the Battle of Britain, where German forces actually take off in France and cross the English Channel to engage Britain over British soil. Now, as much as I love the Battle of Britain, the hardest day is not one of my preferred events, and I will come to why at the end of this video. But first things first, we've just taken into the vertical with the Spitfire. I've managed to get him to go into a dive. I'm not prepared to follow him at this time, so instead I'm just banking around to the right, regaining airspeed and taking a little bit more altitude. My objective at this point is to just push all of the British aircraft down to the water, where they're in a position where I can easily attack and take them out. Now at this point I'm going to cut throttle and stall the plane over. I'm going to push it into an almost vertical dive on top of my first target. Now the Spitfire I've picked out was in a vertical maneuver. He was using his energy to convert to altitude so he could dive on the targets below him. I'm trying to get him at a slow speed to be able to gain on him rapidly in close distance. He comes out of a dive going straight into a climb, pursuing one of our other 109s, presents me a full profile of his aircraft, and there is my first kill. Immediately nose back up and use the airspeed I've gained to retake altitude and position myself above the enemy Spitfires. However, during my zoom climb I spot another Spitfire at altitude, one that I missed. Now he was engaged with another fighter, however seeing me at a slow state he does maneuver over to try and get guns. I quickly throw the plane into a defensive loop, manage to pull out of the way of his guns and then go for altitude as he's moving into a dive. However, this maneuver did leave me at a pretty low energy state, so I'm going to turn in on him and try and position guns as a shield. I'm hoping he won't try and go head on. Thankfully, it looks like he's shifted back over towards my wingman, and a second Spitfire has joined him. Now, he does momentarily present me with a kill shot, and I do get a hit, but I only hit with the MGs, not with the cannons. Unfortunately, I passed below 200 kilometers an hour during that second climb and just didn't have the control authority to be able to drop the guns fast enough to get the cannons on the lead. Still, I tip the plane into a dive to pursue. We wind up in a tumbling corkscrew towards the ground. Again, I get a second hit on the Spitfire, but it seems unaffected. It throws itself into another sharp turn. I manage to reposition in anticipation for the shot and lay another hit on, but again, no kill. And at this point I do fire another couple of bursts, and they were silly. They were more out of frustration than anything else. I just couldn't turn the plane hard enough to actually catch him. Throttles to 0 so I don't overshoot. He takes the plane into the vertical, back to 100%, take the lead, and this time the shells land home and fireball. Unfortunately, that one is not going to be a kill. It's only going to be an assist. While the pilot is on fire and does suffer 2 or 3 critical hits due to that fire as he goes down, he manages to keep the aircraft in the air, and he gets mopped up by another pilot at a later time. So at this time I've secured the airspace above the fight. There is nothing else at altitude. Everything is on the deck. Now I can start picking my targets and diving in. So my first target was this Spitfire. I see he's going for a head-on. Silly mistake, I have the advantages. Pull the plane into the vertical, let him try and come up here with me. He blows all of his energy, so do I in a rollover. However, I am still in a better state. Roll the plane, keep it underwept to accelerate as fast as I possibly can to pull in only 6. Unable to get guns on me, he moves to engage my auto squad wingman. He's diving away, Spitfire moves to pursue, presents me with a nice clean shot, which in another startling example of piss poor gunnery I managed to miss. And once again we begin our dive back to the deck. Now at this point in the engagement, things are not actually looking all that good for Germany. This is a 3-on-5 fight at this point. 3 Bf-109E4s, including myself, versus 5 Spitfires, and the British team actually has a 6th aircraft, a Hurricane, that's currently engaging the German bomber formations over near their runway. Still, that's not something you can think about at this stage in the fight. You've got to worry about what's directly in front of you. So, continuing to follow this Spitfire through its maneuvers, he goes into the vertical for a 3rd or 4th time, I've actually lost count, once again following him through. But this time he overextends himself, trying to take out my wingman, presents himself as a perfect target, and a clean kill. So that narrows down the odds to 3 versus 4 in favour of the British. And once again I find myself above the fight with the altitude advantage. Moving in on the next Spitfire. And once again I find myself not really liking the attack angle. To actually take the Spitfire I had targeted, I would end up in a dive beneath the other two Spitfires, and I didn't want that. So I pulled the plane up vertical and then changed my angle, diving in the horizontal. Now once again my auto squad wingman here is the bait, but this time he's baited 3 Spitfires on his tail all at once. So, time to help clean up. First shot goes through, we take out the next Spitfire in line, so it is now 3 versus 3. Now I had a really good shot available to myself there. Unfortunately I aimed slightly too low, the cannon shells go directly below the aircraft, only the MGs hit, and that was the last of my cannon rounds. And there's a kill assist for the Spitfire I set on fire before. He was taken out in a head-on, so unfortunately we lost one of our fighters there. Dive back over and I take out another Spitfire using just the MGs. And in just 60 seconds we go from a 5 versus 3 British favour to a 2 versus 1 German favour. So at this time I am out of cannon rounds. I am down to just the 2 MGs that are standard in the 109E4. And so is the remaining aircraft on my team. So at this point we're in an MG only fight. The Spitfire we're facing actually has the combined firepower of both our aircraft put together, but there are 2 of us. For the start, we begin trying to engage the aircraft in one-on-ones, and I get some good hits there, but again, it's only 2 MGs. Unless I hit something vulnerable or I manage to hit the pilot, I'm not going to take this Spitfire out. At least not with a couple of short bursts. Now there is a very good reason for this being the last Spitfire pilot remaining on the British team. This guy was very good, he knew his Spitfire well. And he also had extremely good situational awareness. Every time I tried to make a breakaway and open up some distance, he would turn back in to try and keep the gap close. Every single time the other E4 on my team tried the same thing, he would do the same thing. He was keeping the fight as close as possible. He wanted us in a turning engagement. Now I'm putting the E4 through its paces in a turn as hard as I possibly can. At this point, I do get the opportunity to open up a gap. I deliberately stall the E4 over. I want to hold position and let him get some distance so I can dive back down, accelerate up to 400 kilometers an hour, and close back in at high speed. So with the dive complete, we're at 360 and accelerating in, closing distance on the Spitfire rapidly. However, the Spitfire pilot sees that I'm approaching in, turns his plane over hard, and attempts to force a head-on. Well, at least he attempts to fake one. He sees that I'm approaching in, he sees that I'm going to have guns on target faster, he banks away and pulls back for altitude. Now again, I clip him with the MGs. Now at this point I actually try and bait him. I put the plane into the vertical, keep it on WEP, and just continue flying straight up. I was hoping he would attempt to turn the Spitfire up after me and present a kill shot to my teammate, but he sees the bait and immediately disengages from me and turns back onto my teammate. This puts me in a position to dive back on his aircraft, throttles to 0 as I don't want to close on the ground too rapidly. Managed to get a couple more hits with the MG, but again, unless I hit something really sensitive, it's going to take more than just a couple of hits. Come very close to the water at this point, throttle back up to maximum, but I have lost a lot of speed in my twisting dive there and I'm down to 200 kilometers an hour, which is again back in the Spitfire's ballpark. But again, at this point, I'm turning too hard for him to effectively get guns back on me, so he disengages for me and goes back for my teammate. So I pull the 109 back into a very sharp climb and try and stall it over to turn back on. And at this point, we see the remaining Spitfire engaging the bombers get taken out by the bombers' defensive gunners. This puts it down to a true 2-on-1. He is the last plane remaining on the enemy team. I wasn't able to stall the plane over fast enough, so try and open a gap, but the Spitfire has a drop on me. He has speed from a dive, he's trying to close in, pull the plane up into a sharp climb, and this time he goes to follow, giving my teammate a clean shot, who quickly takes it and blows the elevators straight off the back of the Spitfire. He continues for a few seconds and into the drink he goes. So I'm just going to pause the video here for a second because there's a couple of things I want to go to. First things first. So a shout out to Jaina Gaia for some very good teamwork right there, and a massive shout out to Laurent Caccia of OACS Squadron. Some fantastic defensive flying there, well done mate. So anyways, earlier on in this video I said I had a problem with this event, but it's not a problem that you might actually expect. I don't care that the German side doesn't have a runway, I don't care that the British side has more aircraft, this all makes sense. The problem I have with this particular event is that it doesn't work. If you look at the screen right now, as you saw at the start, Germany had one bombing target we had to take out, and we had a number of bombers that we had to defend in order to achieve it. And as you can see, we've still got bombers alive, and the bombing target has been eliminated. Despite the bombing target being eliminated, if you look at the point score at the top of the screen, you'll notice that the British side's points has been completely unaffected by the destruction of this particular base. Now, we've just eliminated all the aircraft on the enemy team. So with the German team having completed every objective that they can complete in this particular match, this of course is the point that we would fail the mission objective and begin to lose ticket points to lose the match. Now, very, very thankfully here the game records that we have eliminated the enemy team and starts ticking down the enemy team's points as well, and due to the fact that their team has been completely eliminated, their ticket drop is much faster. But having completed every single objective that Germany complete, we were just about to lose because reasons. This map has a massive auto win condition for Britain. In fact, I've seen this match won by a Hurricane who simply flew out to the southern part of the map, landed under a tree and went AFK, and the match just ended in a British victory. So, results for the match. 4 kills and 1 assist. Could have been a 5 kill if that fire had actually done its work faster. Fighter Rescuer X2, Shadow Strike Streak X2, Multi-Strike X2, the best squad, Terror of the Sky and Bulletproof. 48,870 Silver Lions, and 3,089 base research with a premium account, no boosters and no bonuses as I'm not researching anything. So, not a bad match overall, some piss poor shooting and some okay shooting on behalf of me, and an excellent fight at the end. That was one of the most fun engagements that I've had in War Thunder in some time. But that ending, if that engagement with the Spitfire had lasted another 15 to 20 seconds, or if the HE111 bombers hadn't shot down that remaining Spitfire that was engaging them, we could have lost this match by default. And the worst part about it is, if you look at the mission objectives that the British need to complete in order to win that mission, they actually hadn't completed any of them. Their victory conditions are destroy all German fighters or wipe out all the bombers. Well, the bombers were still up and we were still flying. And yet they still got the automatic victory condition. I have no idea why the map does this, but it's been doing this for an exceptionally large period of time, and it's not the only one of the event maps that Gaijin created that has a problem like this. And this is the real reason why a lot of people don't like them. An historical event usually isn't balanced because, well, you don't enter combat at a disadvantage unless you absolutely have to. Regularly, real-world battles are one-sided. And no, you don't always have access to a runway or a place that you can land and repair in a real-world fight. Actually, regularly, neither side does. In the case of the Battle of Britain event, the British were flying over home soil. They did have a place to take their planes back to, so them having a runway makes sense. Germany not having access to one also makes sense. This is not a problem. But having the match set up in such a way that even if Germany does everything right, they can still lose, or that the British can do literally nothing and still win, is ludicrous. As I said earlier on, to win this battle, all you need to do is take off in a Hurricane, fly to the far side of the map, as far away from the main battle lineup as you possibly can get, land the aircraft and park it under a tree and go AFK, and you automatically win this match as Britain in around about 15 to 20 minutes. I really would like to see more of these events to pop up in the events queue and to have more of these one-sided battles with limited access to the appropriate aircraft for the event. I actually think they're a lot of fun, and it is fun playing from the side that is a disadvantage. I really personally enjoy that, and I know many that do. I know many that don't as well, but each to their personal preference. The problem is, if the maps are set so that one side is always going to win with almost no effort, well then you're taking it a bit too far, and that's when people just won't play them. Anyways, ladies and gents, hope you enjoyed the video, hope you enjoyed the fight. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments section below what you think about this fight, what you thought about the ending. Until next time, click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.